Hey, howdy, and welcome back to Dolynny TV, friends, as we get set up to discuss a little something off the wall. You know, over the course of the summer, as the Oilers kind of go in and out of the news cycle, I had promised that I'd touch on some other subjects, touch on some other things that interest me, might pique your interest. I know there's some of you back home that'll watch whatever I post, and quite literally, today's video is a whatever I post. So, for those of you that don't know the full story, I'll try and explain it here over the next little bit, but there's a connection for a guy that hasn't drank in 4+ years to the small town bar. And that's not just necessarily a small town bar, that's the small town bar, the one that, exists in every single small town out there across the province of Alberta, the country of Canada, so on and so forth. So, buckle up, right? I think it's going to be a good discussion. I think number one thing I have to tell you about myself, right? I've been sober for 4+ years. So for me, the small town bar might not mean exactly what it does to the people that drink, but I think I've got a pretty clear understanding from having spent about 15 years watching how a bar operates right in front of my eyes as I grew up. And then obviously as well, turning 18 not too long after and being able to go to said small town bars and check things out. So, well, number one, I guess, like I'm trying to say, spit it out. The Grand Center Hotel, right? You'll see me wear the t-shirts right here that always say Grand Center Hotel. Some of you might be able to see the whole thing on the video when I move. Some of you might not even catch that detail. Grand Center Hotel, near and dear to my heart. Obviously now just a gravel parking lot with some weeds on it and some recycling bins. Just off of downtown in Cold Lake. That was a family business that my family owned for, I want to say, 60 years or something like that. Towards the tail end, once we kind of lost it, and obviously it was knocked down, but it was something that had hotel rooms, a cafe, a lounge, a dining room, liquor store, obviously the rooms, and a bar, right? And I think that's where, for a kid that grew up in such a dynamic place like Cold Lake, Alberta, getting to learn life from that perspective was pretty interesting and pretty impactful. I think it's definitely given a lot of perspective to how I view things and stuff. But obviously, one of the things you see firsthand, the most running part of the hotel 24/7 is the rooms, but secondary was the bar right behind. And for those of you that are like, oh, the Grand Center Hotel kind of sounds familiar, but I'm not sure what you're talking about. There is some nicknames for it out there as well, and I think the most common one across Cold Lake would be Shanks. For those of you that are a little bit back in the day, so for that crowd, I guess to say it's been a interesting life, obviously doing this YouTube thing and haven't done that beforehand, but for all that, I think growing up firsthand, it was really interesting kind of seeing the impact a small town bar can have. Obviously, if you sit back for a second and think to yourself, what does a small town bar mean? I think number one, it means a community gathering place, right? That's somewhere that everybody goes on whatever night of the week to kind of meet up and do something, and that definition has changed, right? I think back in the day it was drink and get rowdy. Quite honestly, there was a lot of that at the Grand Center Hotel back in the day. One could say I've heard stories that a horse literally got barred from the bar. So just saying. That said, you look at this here and you think about it nowadays, right? That small town bar, it's somewhere you go to watch the hockey game with your buddy. It's somewhere you go to watch football on Sunday, whatever the case might be, right? It's a local gathering place where you and your friends go out for some sort of something, whether it be karaoke night. And small town bar necessarily isn't just a bar in a small town. I'm talking more, even if you want to broaden it out to bigger places, more your dive bar, more your whatever you want to say, just community watering hole, whatever term you want to use for it, go for it. But I think it definitely is a special place in which I honestly don't think small towns in particular can function without, because you look at the impact those places have overall in the community. And obviously, yes, the drinking and the alcoholism and stuff that's sometimes associated with it can be a detriment, can be a problem. The government of Alberta, the small towns, all that have done very good to kind of clean up some of the uglier side of it. But realistically, it is so impactful in terms of the community. It's a place where I think number one thing you're going to do if you're over the age of 18 and you just move to a new place is you're going to go down to the bar and see who's there, right? Try and try and just kind of meet your community, even if you don't really talk to anyone. Just see the people, see how they interact in the bar, and just kind of see what you're getting into, right? I think that's a very natural thing everywhere I've gone in my life. I've gone down to the bar and seen, okay, what's going on? And that's from a non drinking perspective myself, quite honestly. It's just one of those things where it's such a gathering place inside a small town that it's impactful like that. And then secondarily as well, it's sort of a community events area, right? You've got the karaoke, you've got a wing night, which is always a big popular night across a lot of small towns. You got so many different things that just kind of draw people there. And obviously a good small town bar, you know it's a good small town bar when you see the vehicles out front every single day. But growing up from my perspective, just kind of the the different perspectives it can bring in the door, the people that honestly run the bar, right? I mean, yeah, from my family perspective, owning it, sure, but the people that are out there in the bar serving, right? The bartenders, the waitresses, whatever you want to say, it's just you get so many different people through the doors in a day, in a week, in a month that it really does leave for a kid that honestly grew up in a bar almost, quite honestly, or at least around a bar setting. It's quite impactful to see kind of just how much you think of over the years, this person saying this or this person doing this or whatever the case might be, just how much it can leave a mark on someone. And obviously too, if you go to the bar regularly, you're going to hear things, you're going to see things, you're going to witness things. And you know what, at the end of the day, it makes you a better person, right? And I think that's where I'm trying to gearing this conversation towards, is the social aspect. Is the small town bar is quite honestly one of the biggest social components of any small town. And for myself personally, living kind of on the outer edges of a smaller town here in Alberta, it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, that's, if it's a tough week and I don't have much social interaction, yeah, I might not go talk to anyone. I might just sit there and have a little bit of food, have an iced tea, have a Shirley Temple, whatever. But quite honestly, I'm gonna go sit out there and just, enjoy the fact that there's my surrounding community around me in some sense. So it is really that social aspect and that community aspect that makes the small town bar so important when it comes down to it. And I think that's one thing that I honestly just felt like I had to talk about today, because it is definitely just so integral to kind of everything that's been my life and everything that I want my life to be forever and always, right? And I think you look at kind of the bar club scene in the bigger centers here in Alberta versus what a small town bar is. It is a much different attitude. It is a much different setting. And it is just, again, I think from somebody winning on the VLTs, right? Most small town bars have the VLTs. That's a big source of income for them. In a small town bar, the way I was raised, at least at the Grand Center Hotel, is if you go out there and you win big on the VLTs, yeah, okay, good for you. But hey, buy a round for the bar, right? So that's one thing that I think is definitely different than a bigger center, right? Where you might have VLTs tucked away in the corner and it's just a steady stream of income for a bigger bar and a bigger center. But for sure the guy that won $500 on that VLT isn't going around and buying 6 more drinks for the bar and tipping the waitress some extra money, right? So that's where I definitely think the small town bar is quite something incredible, and I just wanted to talk about it today. So thanks for coming to the old talk here on Dolynny TV today. We'll have more Oilers news coming tomorrow. I can promise you that. Bit of a busier day tomorrow overall, going off holidays, back to work and such. But we'll have you covered on whatever the Oilers choose to do tomorrow. For right now, I'm Dolynny TV. This is up on out of here.